Welcome to Happy Hour. Over these past few episodes, we've been talking about specific spirits and more specifically, different brands of those spirits and their different qualities and attributes that make them appropriate for one kind of drink or another, or why you would use one in a certain type of drink. Now, one common theme I've kind of brought up is if you're mixing your spirits, being mindful of like the price point or quality of what you're using. Now, if your last name is Musk and price is no option, or, no worry, then yeah, go nuts and like go as high shelf as you want. But there is a certain point where, as I've said in the past couple episodes, you're just putting ketchup on the steak, right? So I'll give you a. We're going to talk about tequila today. Music. So tequila. When I came into the bar scene or whatever, became old enough to became of age, the only tequila I really knew about was Jose Cuervo. And if it was a fancy bar, it was the 1700. In the past, I would say 15 years, there's been an absolute explosion of the types of tequila that are now available on the market. I mean, Jose Cuervo, well, they're in a Steely Dan song, so that's where they are. But you would get these different tequilas. I never occurred to me, tequila was something you'd shoot and go, and then move on from your evening, or you'd have it in a margarita, right? So over the past 15 years, they've brought in all kinds of different flavors, makers of tequila, kinds of tequila, and I learned that tequila can be enjoyed on the same level as like scotch or whiskey in general, ranging from kind of good quality distillations up through extremely high quality, nuanced spirits that can be enjoyed on their own on the rocks. They are very complex and super, super delicious. This is also true for rum, something I don't know a ton about rum, but I was once introduced to sipping rums, and my mind was blown, because up until that point I'd only known rum as something that would be in and drinks, or like hurricanes or super fruity tropical blasts. So tequila, what are we talking about here? Well, there's 3 different types of tequila, and I brought in what I consider to be like a good old-fashioned workhorse of a tequila, a newer-ish brand, at least to Maine. El Jimador is a Blanco tequila, Freudian slip. El Jimador is a Blanco tequila. This is El Jimador Blanco, and there's also Reposado and Añejo. Blanco is the least rested, Reposado means rested, and Añejo means aged. Reposado must be aged at least 2 months, and Añejo at least 12 months. So the more aging it does in the barrels, the more characteristics it gets from the wood in the barrels. They generally become darker, like a little more brown. I mean, this isn't really fair because this bottle is brown, but like if it can have like a little bit more of the more rested it is, the more of a golden hue it will have, the more notes of like caramel and depending on what the barrel is made of and what was in the barrel before. That's another thing we can do. Like some of your scotches will be aged in sherry casks, and all those scotches. Glenmorangie, for instance, the Quinta Ruban, will pull the sweetness from the sherry that's still soaked into the wood of the barrel into the scotch as it finishes, and this is also true for tequila, which is made from blue agave, which we get from our lovely neighbors to the south in Mexico, and a couple of regions in Mexico at that. So El Jimador is something I would use in a margarita. Why? It's a fine, solid, good quality tequila. It tastes good on its own, and thusly it's going to make your drink taste good. But it's also not perhaps like more of a top shelf. Now, Herradura is an example of a tequila that came in. I want to say it came into my consciousness in the early mid 2000s or so, right around there. And this was the first tequila that I'd had, one of the first that I'd had, where you could just really enjoy it and sip it, and it kind of didn't give you that tequila kickback like. So, can you make a margarita with this? Absolutely, it's a damn fine margarita at that. But I wouldn't go like bar mix. Like I would do this in fresh lime juice, maybe a little sugar, and still let the tequila speak, because this tequila has a lot to say. As far as it's like lots of different notes in here. There's a sweetness to it. If you go up to the Reposado and then Añejo, the Reposado is one of my favorites. I would say the Herradura Reposado is like one of my go-to tequilas for if I had to have one that I could use for sip. There's one tequila at my bar. It's Herradura Reposado. That's just my own personal preference. It's what I imprinted on. I love how it tastes on its own or in a drink. But you might not want to go like too high shelf. Casamigos is the latest and greatest of the super good tequilas that we can get in this state. It's like it's kind of ubiquitous. Every bar has this. You can still make a marg with it and not feel too bad about it. And I'm going to give you an example, like, because if you go like too high in quality, this is the thing I'm pointing out. I'm not deterring you from buying high quality tequila. In fact, the opposite. In fact, if I were doing that, I would probably get fired, because it's my job to encourage you to try different flavors. But using super high quality spirits in mixed drinks, as I've said before, it's ketchup on the steak. I used to have this guy come into a bar that I worked at, and I'll leave it at that. And at the time, that bar had one of the finest tequila selections in the state. We were really on top of it. We wanted to make sure that we had all the best stuff that was available at that time. There are places now that are better, but this is at that time we had a great snapshot of the best tequilas available in the state. This fellow would walk in and kind of give like a, have you got something that I didn't have? Like, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't have that. And then he would settle for one of our very nice brands of tequila, like a really, really nice tequila. And then he would ask for a margarita. And that to me was like, all right, dude, okay. You're gonna bust my about what I have for tequila, and then you're gonna basically put it in Coca-Cola, where you won't be able to really taste the quality of it. There's just a certain point where, in a margarita, lime and sugar is going to take, citrus and sugar is going to take over and kind of command a lot of the palate space. So there's really not like much use in using an extremely carefully crafted, super carefully crafted tequila for that, in my opinion, and many others. It should just be enjoyed on its own for what it is. Or maybe in a cocktail, which brings out those flavors, like a really nice, perhaps a Negroni, mezcal Negroni. Mezcal is kind of is a cousin to tequila, also made from blue agave, but it has more of a smoky quality, not unlike Scotch in that way only. But anyway, that's my kind of take on tequila. If you want something smoother and rounder, I would use that for sipping, or in smoother, rounder cocktails, which will feature the spirit in a more forward way. If you're mixing, in a Paloma, for instance, I think that, a Blanco tequila will do, because you're going to get a nice crisp tequila flavor on the forward. But again, you can kind of go in whatever direction you want. All I'm doing is spouting what I think, and who gives a shit what I think. This has been Happy Hour, brought to you by Maine Spirits. You can learn more about these drinks and many other drinks at mainspirits.com. You can download their app for your smartphone, which is a smart move. What to buy, where to buy it, and what to do with it once you get it. You can also download we downloaded the app already. We are following them on Instagram, Maine_spirits. And as always, we are asking you to drink deliciously and responsibly, and we'll see you next time.